NVIDIA, what the hell? No, don't worry, I'm not bashing NVIDIA here or anyone else, but I certainly do ask myself the question, you do too maybe, why does the RTX 2080 Super need to exist? If you followed the releases of the RTX 2070 Super and 2060 Super, you could assume such a 2080 Super would slot into a different performance tier now too, but not so fast, my friends. In this performance class, NVIDIA doesn't seem to be as generous. Anyway, today I'll be taking a look at this RTX 2080 Super Twin Fan Edition by ZOTAC. From the models that come with pretty decent cooling, this one happens to be among the cheaper versions out there. And by cheaper, I mean about $740 that you'd have to shell out for this GPU at the time of this video. So not necessarily the amount of money you'd associate with the term cheaper. Now, what's the purpose of the RTX 2080 Super? How much faster is it compared to a regular 2080? Could this be some kind of better safe than sorry preparation by NVIDIA to possibly battle AMD's upcoming GPUs? Or could this simply turn out to be one of the most boring graphics cards ever launched by NVIDIA? Now, just so everyone knows, the regular RTX 2080 is soon going end of life. It's being replaced by its Super successor. In theory, this Super variant shouldn't really come close to a 2080 Ti though, something the specs more or less are telling us already if you compare. In terms of design and build quality by ZOTAC, this Twin Fan Edition really could surprise me in a good way. It even reminds me a bit of NVIDIA's Founders Edition card that also happens to sport two fans with a similar spacing in between and almost identical graphics card length. Sure, a lot of it here is out of plastic, but it does make a very solid impression all in all. Even a metal backplate is featured here that not only serves a practical purpose, such as stabilizing the PCB, but also does add something to the aesthetics. Pretty good looking if you're asking me. ZOTAC's so-called Ice Storm 2.0 cooler comes into play here, and it should offer great cooling performance at a relatively low noise level. And that I pretty much can confirm. While it doesn't sport my beloved feature on GPUs that is semi-passive cooling, which would turn off the fans at idle or under light GPU loads. However, also a great feature in my opinion is the fact that both fans can be controlled individually from each other. The cool thing about this is that this can all be done automatically. That may sound weird at first, but why not? So mad respect for this nice implementation by ZOTAC. Of course, some of you surely have guessed it, this is one of those models that doesn't actually puke rainbow colors all over the place. So RGB lighting is kept at a minimum here. Some may love that, others will really hate it. If you're asking me, I couldn't care less. It doesn't matter to me whether we get more or less RGB on here. It doesn't bother me. But other than with ZOTAC's lighting 2-3 years ago, a lot has improved. With the so-called Firestorm software, the LEDs can be controlled perfectly, and the LED quality doesn't seem to be bad at all as far as I can tell. Alright, where are the differences between this 2080 Super and a regular 2080 then? By a quick look at the specs, we can tell that both use the same TU104 GPU, so unfortunately not the TU102 that's being used on the 2080 Ti. And other than that, the only real differences are in the amount of shaders, RT and tensor cores, TDP and clock speeds. Albeit, the boost clock of the 2080 Super in theory shouldn't really be all that much higher than the one seen on the 2080. A bit later into the video, we'll be comparing the exact clock speed in-game. Where things really improved is on the memory side of things. The GDDR6 VRM now clocks noticeably higher than the one on the 2080, but this is the moment where I once again have to complain about the VRAM capacity of just 8 GB. Even back when the 2080 launched, I complained a lot about that, especially since NVIDIA already had the 1080 Ti out, equipped with 11 GB and the same price range. And if a refresh or whatever you may want to call it apparently is so needed, wouldn't it have made sense to just up the amount of VRAM as well? It would have been the perfect opportunity in my opinion, or am I wrong? Don't get me wrong, 8 GB are really good, but if you're already treating yourself with a high-end graphics card, such as this one in this price range, it would make total sense for the consumer to expect future-proofness, at least when it comes to the memory. But oh well, memory or not, for now let's just take a look at what this RTX 2080 Super actually brings to the table. Right away, what can be said is that the RTX 2080 Super, generally speaking, has lots and lots of performance to offer. Everyone will agree on that. For 1440p gaming at maxed out graphics settings, a fantastic graphics card with a very high frame rate. Even 4K gaming is a topic. While you shouldn't expect buttersmooth 60 FPS at that resolution at maxed out settings in-game, if you're ready to turn some of these settings down, you can in fact witness a whole lot more FPS on screen at 4K. But sure, it makes sense, performance has to be great with a card like this. No one has doubted that, I'm sure. What does make me a little sad, however, is the fact that year by year we are still pretty much looking at yet another 1080 Ti release. Yeah, sure, there's a 2080 Ti out, but in terms of pricing, it's on a whole new level many of us don't even want to look at. But it can be seen clearly in my testing, the by now 2-year-old GTX 1080 Ti still keeps up extremely well. It almost can still be placed in the same performance tier as this RTX 2080 Super. And the price of that 1080 Ti back when it launched and the 2080 Super, if I'm not mistaken, are pretty much the same. This kinda goes to show how little has actually changed over the last couple of years. We've pretty much come to a halt when it comes to graphics card performance. Let's hope this soon changes with stronger competition like AMD and soon hopefully with Intel's entry into the discrete GPU market. Because right now we can look at it this way, the regular RTX 2080 more or less in terms of performance is a 1080 Ti plus ray tracing and all that kind of features. While this 2080 Super is faster by quite a bit, this doesn't apply to each and every game title out there. A 2080 Ti still remains far more superior in every aspect. We also do not get more than 8GB of video memory, so that it would perhaps make more sense to put out such a GPU, but nah, not happening either. Honestly, I'm not sure why NVIDIA felt the need to release this specific graphics card. Should this be some kind of preparation against AMD's upcoming GPUs? If we go ahead and compare the clock speeds on both the 2080 and 2080 Super, it is obvious the refreshed card does clock quite a bit higher, which applies to both the GPU as well as the memory clock. That alone already should account for a nice FPS improvement, but things like the amount of shaders have increased too. But I digress. What I wanted to say is, I find it a bit unfair of NVIDIA to replace graphics card models within the same exact series so quickly. This could potentially upset some loyal customers, especially with these now more aggressive prices as opposed to before. So people that have bought an RTX 2080, 2070 or 2060 might have a reason to be a little upset about this move. But I'm not here to act demoralizer, I'm actually here to judge the tech or rather performance. And this is where NVIDIA has done good this time around, it seems, even at that price point. At the end of the day, this happens to be a very good high-end GPU, which is why I even can give it my gold award. However, I'm only talking from a technical point of view. I don't really agree with NVIDIA's practices, so to speak, and their most recent move. And I also don't agree with equipping this GPU with only 8GB of VRAM once more. Nonetheless, it's an impressive graphics card. And with that said, thanks a lot for watching.